Hey,
Hey,
Misfits Managed Nation. It's your boy, Coach G. What's up? And
hey, Evie, how are you?
yeah, my special new co-host for tonight. Introduce yourself, sis.
I did. I said an EVB. I was here. I said it.
I missed
Write it
it.
on
I missed it.
out.
You know,
Yes, I
running
understand.
my mouth.
That's all
But
right. That's all right.
hey, tonight is a special night. It's actually bittersweet. Um, and before I even get started, look at that. Shannon is already here saying hi. So what's
Hey,
up, Shannon?
Shannon.
Loyal fan, and we appreciate you. But hey, so we wanted to start kind of with some announcements. So um, tonight is the last Misfits Managed night. So we close this out tonight, and we're gonna recap the climb that we've talked about. Now we're into our third week, but we've got another special piece that we want to end on tonight that we're going to throw at here in a minute. But we want to throw these announcements out there for everybody tonight. Um, so yeah, officially tonight is the last night for Misfits Managed, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this journey. I started with co-host Lauren, and it was a wonderful experience with her. And as I said, the last couple of weeks she had to step away because the Lord was taking her in a different direction, um, which was okay. I supported that 100%, and I was already thinking of some other stuff that I wanted to do anyway, and that's what we'll start next week, which that is called Unbreakable Souls. So part of a ministry that I'm running, it's one of the I would call one of the bases or hubs of that ministry. The ministry is called Beck Battleground Equipping Center, and it has 12 hubs under it. So one of the hubs in that ministry is called Unbreakable Souls. Um, Unbreakable Souls, really, the podcast piece of it, it launches next Tuesday, April 1st.
Mhm.
Next Tuesday, April 1st, 8 p.m.
Right.
Standard Time, right here. So
Right
be
here. Right here.
Misfits
Absolutely.
Nation. Just switch over. It's going to be same time, same channel, same location. We want your support. We appreciate your
Hmm.
support. But really, the purpose of Unbreakable Souls is helping individuals put a name and face to their traumas, those
Yeah.
things that have so easily beset them and separated them from God and their authentic selves. So we're going to
Hmm.
really dive into trauma, pulling out issues that you've had to deal with throughout your life.
Yeah.
Once these traumas are identified, we want to help you to become liberated, unshackled, and free. That's right, free to realize your God ordained freedom.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about this. This is the ministry arm of me, of Coach G.
Hmm.
Now that being said, is Miss Evie and I said last week or the week before, yes, it is faith based, but this is real talk. This is real
Yeah.
talk, and to be honest, it's not necessarily for the believer; it's for the unbeliever, because
Right.
we want to speak into you and give you some tools to help you. So the start of it is actually a breakdown of Hebrews 13. Hebrews 13 talks about purity, holiness, and righteousness in one's temple. So as I said, we're launching that next week. I'll introduce our co-host with that next week. I'm excited about that because that series will take us, probably 4 to 6 weeks. Actually, I've got 7 really strong points on that I want to
Hmm.
elaborate on. It will allow me to transition into what I really want Unbreakable Souls to be about, and it's the curriculum that by that time will be finalized, called the
Hmm.
Journey of a Warrior Training. So I'm
Okay.
super excited
Awesome.
about that. One of the things, and this is it's no coincidence that Edie's here with me tonight, because she teaches in our group AYPN Activate Your Power Now on release,
Yeah.
and because I've sat under her immaculate, marvelous, amazing training on
Oh
release.
wow.
This woman, I'm telling y'all, is amazing. She's incredible, extraordinary woman of God. But because I've sat
Amen.
under her training, she taught me how to release. The beauty of release is it creates, obviously, you releasing the trauma from your past, which creates
Right.
space within you to
Mhm.
take on new things. But she also taught me sometimes the good things are out of season and outdated and
Right.
stale. And it's okay
Right.
to release that because, again,
Mhm.
it creates space for new things. One of the things that it created space for me is your boy, Coach G, is writing now. That's right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love it, love
Not
it.
just the
It was
speaker, but I'm writing. I have actually written
yeah,
curriculum. I'm breaking it down and going back through it again, adding more
yeah.
substance, more meat to it. So I'm super excited. I'm going to run it by Miss Evie too, because she's a counselor. I need a clinical review on that. So I'm super,
Absolutely,
super excited
absolutely.
about that to be able to launch that. And then the second announcement will be the following Saturday of that same week, April
Mm-hmm.
5th at 3 o'clock p.m. Central
Mm-hmm.
Standard Time. A new podcast again. This one's different, called Kingdom Kings and Queens. Miss Evie,
Absolutely,
talk to
absolutely.
us about what that's going to be about.
Kingdom Kings and Queens will be myself and Coach G, and we just want to give a space where you can say so. You know what I'm saying? And not just you can say so, but that you can say when it hurts. You can say when it is something that I need some advice on. We want to talk about things. We want to meet you where you are and help guide forward. Both of us have backgrounds that we have life coaching and counseling and things of that nature. We both come from either coach dealing with the youth and myself with substance abuse background and the youth and adults. We want to be able to meet people and answer some of those questions that some people are a little ashamed to ask. And you shouldn't be. We want to give you a space and a safe place to come and chat with us about multiple subjects. We want to have series that we're working on certain subjects, break things down. I think
Yeah,
sometimes what we have a lot of in podcasts is people talking at you. We want to create a space where you all are on this journey with us. We want to come up alongside you and rock with it out with you. So, and they're going to touch on some serious subjects that are probably going to take us down some rabbit holes and some journeys, but you can't pack for a trip with the same suitcase. So it's time for us to unpack.
right. And I promise you, we'll schedule in a segment of release in there.
Yes.
And I don't know. The queen might actually do some mirror work with us. I don't
I
know.
can.
I
I
don't know. We
can.
can do it live, on.
We can.
So
Mhm.
I might be able to talk her into that, y'all, to do some. But hey, those were the announcements we wanted to throw out there today. And our producer, I know you're listening, Mark. If you could throw up um, the little QR code that we want to
Yes.
draw people to Pod TV. This is where these podcasts will be located. Pod TV, obviously, it's an online streaming channel. We're going to be also on Roku, Amazon Fire, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook Live. So we're going to be all over the place. We're
Hmm.
coming to a neighborhood near you. We're coming down your street. We're going to be in
Right.
your mail. So get ready.
Absolutely.
Get
Get
ready.
ready. Get ready. Get
So
ready
hey,
to be sick of us.
would you say, Queen?
I said, get ready to be sick of us. We're gonna be
Hey, we good.
everywhere.
So I quickly want to recap because I want to really
Hmm.
save space for this topic we want to close on tonight. But we want to recap the climb. We had so much to talk about with that.
Yeah.
Last week we talked about, when I framed it with the story from Tyler Perry, when he talked about going into an airplane and for the first time and being terrified, obviously because it was a small plane. But then as he's climbing with his instructor, they hit turbulence, and
Hmm.
not just turbulence. He talked about great turbulence, and
Hmm.
we equated that to the struggles and the stresses and the strains and things that we endure in our own personal lives. But the key out of that was he listened, he paused and
Yeah.
listened, and the voice was traffic control. Now, traffic control for me, is the Lord, the Holy Spirit. Whatever traffic control is for you, you just plug that in. But traffic control gave him an order: climb and maintain to
Hmm.
6,500 feet. But really, the key of that is climb and maintain. And we learned last week, if we get to a place where we can just climb and maintain, get to a place where we're just steady,
Hmm.
it brings peace.
Hmm.
And to give you the visual of that, think about a hurricane that's creating massive destruction in the area that it's going over. But if you're in the eye of the storm, there's nothing
Hmm.
there but peace. I mean, isn't that
Right.
beautiful?
Right. Yeah.
We talked about that. Um, we talked about the climb You never know how long it's going to take or what it's going to look like. The only thing you're focused on is that you can never stop. You just got to
Right.
keep going. We just talked about
Yes.
you just climbing and climbing. Sometimes you just climbing and climbing. You don't know where
Right.
you're going. You're just climbing. We
Right.
talked about that the dream that you have that you're climbing towards doesn't come overnight.
Right.
You must run it down. And in that, we learn that it's the chase, in the chase, that we really learn who we really are. Right?
Right.
I think
Well,
that
and
was
that we also want to make sure that we connect at the chase. Not only do we learn who we are, but also you learn your level of endurance.
yes.
Right.
Thank
So we want to make sure that we say that because I think what we've kind of come to in this society is that people, like you said, the climb, and sometimes your climb is aimlessly, but you also need to be climbing with purpose, on
you.
purpose. You know what I'm saying? So climb with purpose, on purpose. I wanted to point that out. I wanted when we spoke on that.
We also talked about most people that are dreamers spend most of their time dreaming, not doing
Hmm.
anything. I mean, if you're
Hmm.
going to get anywhere in life, business, relationships, you have to become a doer. So we talked
Hmm.
about that. And then
Hmm.
it's okay to pivot. If you don't like where you are in any area of your life, what's stopping you from changing?
Right. Ooh.
Another, yeah, that was good. Another key point, we talked about a diamond. So many people want to be seen, they want to shine, they want to be this diamond. But for a diamond to be produced, it must go through extreme pressure
Extreme
and heat.
pressure. Yeah. Yeah.
Then, on top of that, after enduring all of that, it must endure the cuts. The cuts. And look at who pops in right there, because I was just about to talk about intentional living.
Uh-huh.
And the intentional healer has now joined the room.
Yay. Welcome.
Isabel Camacho Black. That's a
Yeah.
powerhouse lady right there. We talked about what's your key to happiness? You know,
Right.
what's the key to wealth? What's the key to making a lot of money? For me, I talked about the struggle. I mean, I could probably plug in several things there, but for me,
Hmm.
really, one of the big ones is struggle because I've learned the value of the struggle. I've
Right.
learned that in the darkness, there's jewels that are along the way.
Hmm.
I call those jewels of the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned
Absolutely.
to look to my left, look to my right, look down, look up.
Mhm.
That God has placed different nuggets, valuable
Yeah,
tools that the only place, Evie, that you can gain those is in the storm, is in the junk, in the
absolutely.
journey,
It's
in
in the
the darkness.
struggle.
So
Right. I think that people have gotten to a place where sometimes we confuse chaos with the struggle. Chaos and the struggle kind of mirror one another at times, but the struggle is where you find your, as Gary just said, your journeys, your jewels of the journey. It is in the chaos that you find more
come on,
chaos.
come
And so
on.
you have to be able to separate those two. And we'll get more into that on the Kingdom Kings and Queens, but that is definitely something we want to approach because the mirror effect of life itself is why we can't release at times.
And
So,
then the last point that we closed out with last week
mhm.
was you got to say this to yourself: is this
Yeah.
going to make me a better person?
Yes.
No. If the answer is no, then it's got to
Mhm.
go.
Mhm. Mhm.
Unapologetically, it's got to go.
Yeah.
You ask yourself, is this going to help my life? If the answer is no, same thing. It's got to go.
Right. Is it adding to me or is it subtracting from
Come
me? And
on.
anything that is subtracting from you is a taking. And it's not just, I think that's another thing is people kind of look at people, places, and things. It's not just your nouns that are taking from you, right?
Right.
So there could be some choices that you're making, some people that you're surrounding yourself with. You really have to dive into what is subtraction in your life and see if it's worth the cost. You have to look
Well,
at that. What's the dividend on
the last one of that was, is this
that?
going to create a brighter future for those around me?
Right.
So we can't,
Hmm.
to your point, you can't be selfish
Right.
because if
Correct.
it's not contributing to the circle around you, no, if the answer is no, it has to go.
Yeah, I just had a question for you based on that, and I saw Izzy's had a question, comment to my go-to question in my intentional growth journey is if it's not building, it's destroying, no in between,
Right.
and
Come on,
that's where I
come
was
on.
actually going with
Right.
the question is because I liked how you put it in this whole notion of chaos and everything. But I was wondering, and this
Mhm.
is for both you, Coach, and definitely Evie as well. Don't you think that sometimes people get too caught up in the chaos and too caught up in the weeds where they want to sit there and kind
Yeah.
of like have what some people used to call pity parties and all along
Mm-hmm.
those lines, and they get too caught up in the weeds and not enough in the growth journey. But I just wanted y'all's thoughts on that, which is why I popped in here and everything, because I do think that sometimes people get too caught up in that pity party and all along those lines.
Right. I think so. I think that the people not only do you get caught up in a pity party, but the pity party that, like you're stating, is actually just a cycle of what I can't do. It's a continuous cycle of what I can't do. And so that's why I kind of, when I'm talking to people or clients, the chaos and the struggle, I explain that because your pity party is in the chaos. The struggle is your jewels of the journey. And so, because if you constantly stay in the repeated cycle of chaos, then that's the only thing you're going to beget. Chaos begets chaos. You know what I'm saying? The struggle leads you to growth and evolving and
Yes.
becoming a best version of yourself or climbing to the next level or I think a lot of people get to, you want to be the top person in the room. Well, the truth of the matter is I want to be the least person in the room because that means I have room to grow in that room where some people have gotten to the biggest part of their room and they're okay there because as long as I can be the biggest person in the room, then I've made it. But you may be finding yourself stuck in a chaos mojo because you
Mhm.
didn't make it. You just made it in that room. But now
Right.
let's go to your next room. Some people their growth is stunted because You're stunting on people.
That's so good, sis. My spin on that would probably, I would want to say, is it becomes the chaos or the trauma becomes our norm.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
scary that it becomes our
Mm-hmm.
norm, and we literally know we're sitting in a space of dysfunction.
Man.
But it's
Man.
easier. The easier path is to sit in the dysfunction versus pivoting out and doing something new that's beneficial for us.
Well,
It's
that's because
it
a lot
really
of
becomes
people.
our arm or our legs.
Yeah. But I think we also have to get to that place where some people's dysfunction functions so well that they're okay with it because it's like you said, it's a
Hmm.
comfortable dysfunction, but I can navigate it, kind of like I'm probably gonna step on some toes here, but some relationships that you just, well, we just gonna be together because I don't want to be alone. But you've
Yeah.
been miserable for 30 years. Like you hate him or her, and, but I ain't by myself. Okay.
Right, right.
So so it's kind of like that, getting into that cycle of, well, this dysfunction functions, but it's functionable,
Yeah,
right, for themselves. And so that's what you have to really constantly reevaluate, constantly strip things away and be intentional and purposeful with it because you can get into a cycle of comfortable chaos.
good one. Mark, there's some great comments. I mean, Izzy, Shannon, Melissa, boy, they are firing off tonight.
Oh
Jesus.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're all no different than
Yep.
any other addiction.
Right, no different than any other addiction. Yes, chaos is comfortable.
Yes, it is
And that's the
comfortable.
thing. Chaos is comfortable. Chaos is very comfortable. And sometimes chaos is all comfort, right? Like sometimes you can get to those points where you no longer want to shine because dimming it it's comfortable. Sometimes some people get to a place where you shied away because you don't wish to be seen. You want to be minimized
Right,
or shrink
right.
down, but you've gotten so comfortable shrinking that now your bones and muscles have become atrophied in the same position you allow yourself to be in.
Well, sis, I think Melinda or Melissa, I'm sorry, is Mark, go
Melissa.
back to that. Melissa is in your vein there. Look at that.
Oh,
Pull that one up, Mark.
I'm gonna see if I can't pull that up right now. The computer's doing something a little bit
oh,
unusual. But
okay.
we can't get it. Keep on talking about. Try to see
Well,
if we
I'll
can.
just read it. So she's saying, "Wow, brighter future for those around us." So I guess it's, oh, that's so small. It's rather difficult for you to shine brighter for yourself and for peeps if you're burrowing in a cave, scared of being seen. He was, oh,
Correct.
she was
Correct.
right in your
Yeah.
vein.
Right. Like I said, so when you shrink it down, that's what I'm saying. We get very comfortable shrinking. And then you get to a place where not only you're comfortable shrinking, but you're comfortable shrinking so much that it becomes your own addiction. I'm addicted to minimizing. I'm addicted to allowing myself to shrink to the point where even you don't see yourself.
Right.
And then you don't see why you shine. It's very hard. When think about the last time somebody told you you were powerful, or man, you got a word, and you hear these things, right? But in your dysfunction or in your continuousness, you will talk yourself right out of your own power.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
You literally give
Because
it away.
you give it away so freely because you don't believe it's worth much. And so why would you sell yourself for free? Shortchanging what is given to you, shortchanging what is in you or and embedded in you. Your light is meant to shine,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, your light is meant to shine. Chaos is not meant to be the end all be all. But we
Well,
get there and we get comfortable.
I think even the voice, the audience that we listen
Yeah.
to, it reminds
Mm-hmm.
me of Jesus, basically saying that he wasn't welcome in his own town. His
Mm-hmm.
family and the people in his town didn't see who he was. And it reminds me of my life. It's like my family, some of the people around me don't necessarily see my gifts or talents. And it's always those people outside that come into
Right.
my life and they're like speaking things into me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so, and that for me, I love the tribe that I have around me, my people, because
Mm-hmm.
to your point, they do see me. I was just
Mm-hmm.
talking about this today, that I'm so grateful to Abba Father that the tribe around me today, now in this dispensation of time of my life, they
Mm-hmm.
see me. They challenge me.
Yes.
And this my sister right here is one of the leaders of that, and they pull the greatness out of me. You need people
Yeah.
in your life like that. That's kind of what that phrase that
Yeah.
we were just ending. If you don't, if you have people in your life that aren't doing that, you got to let them go.
Yeah, I think because what you have to do is you have to find out on your journey to who you're supposed to be, on your journey to your purpose, you have to find out who your emotional vampires are and who your leeches are. I know, I know,
My God,
I know, I know.
I thought you were saving
we,
that for Kingdom Kings and Queens.
I am, but I'm dropping it just a little bit. You
That
have
was
to know who your emotional vampires are. And so we will get more into that on Kingdom Kings and Queens. But it's just breaking down what it is. Sometimes those that we believe, oh Lord, we believe we cannot live without, right? The people that we knew would always be, the people that I know you're going to be, if nobody else is going to, when I get to the winner circle, right? We have this in our minds who is supposed to be there. And then as we evolve, as we grow, as we mature, as we evolve, you have those people and you're like, but you're supposed to be there, right? You're
right.
supposed to go. I expected, like, I just knew you, but you start evolving into a new version of self and self awareness. And then you decide, you learn who your emotional vampires are. And those people, as we'll get into it on the next podcast, are sometimes quite familiar.
Well, I've just learned to accept the word and not necessarily worry about the messenger, because
Yeah.
it took me back, 25 plus years of coaching.
Hmm.
And on my hardest days, out of the mouth of the babes, is the word would say, in a practice, and I'm being
Hmm.
stoic, I'm being the warrior, being strong for my
Hmm.
kids and running a great practice. But it was times like that, in our Bible study or our prayer at the end of practice, one of my kids, one of my players would come up and say, "Hey, coach," and give me a
Yeah.
word that would just blow my mind. Them not having a clue what they were doing,
Man.
but it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
exactly what I needed in that moment.
And I
So,
think that's what happens with us and happens in the world when you have a mentality where you're open, right? That's another thing that we'll talk about during Kingdom Kings and Queens is when you're open to the new level of self. When you have a mindset or you decided that you have an expectation for yourself or what you would like this next step to be or look like, and then have a clear vision for that.
right,
um, Allowing yourself to be run down by the constant expectation of lack, right? Are you speaking over yourself from a place of lack? And I think that that's something that we do as a nation right now, not just as believers, but even non-believers. We speak from a place of lack. And if we spoke from a place of abundance, Oh my goodness, what the world would be, right?
Well, and I think one of the things that we talked about um, um, last week was, how am I framing this? The mentality of this country. You know, we talked about how
Hmm.
the weak mindset that we have today. I think everybody wants to be great, but in reality, I would say most people are just average.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know, and
yeah.
I say that and make that phrase not to be insulting,
Right.
just real talk, because kind of to our point that we talked about last week, being about the diamond, people want all this flash and glamour, but are not willing to
Hmm.
put in the work,
Right,
time,
right, right.
the dedication, you know, the struggle, the journey, you know, to get
Yeah.
those places.
I
Um,
think that, and that's why I said we kind of want everything quickly. Like, I teach a class on instant gratification and the instant gratification mindset, and it always goes really well because I think some people forget that's actually the way of the world right now. They've kind of forgotten that that is the mindset of come on right now, right now, right now. I think we discussed it a couple weeks back about the iPhone, how as soon as you get an iPhone, whatever the newest one is, and then 30 days and 60 days, the next newest one comes out, and it's like the screen's slightly bigger, it's got one extra camera, and it's the newest thing. You have to have it, and you start looking at your phone like, man, I wish I had.
and it's like, how many cameras can we have?
Man, you don't even take no pictures. You be at work
Yeah,
trying to pay for your
it's
phone.
not just the iPhone, it's computers, it's all of that stuff in general and
Everything.
everything like that. Because just that mentality, I personally am of the opinion that it is that they put slippery guards on those phones and everything. Because I've noticed that a lot of times the phones drop and they break, and I'm going like, this is done intentionally. So, like I said, I don't know this for a fact, but I do think that they sometimes have that notion and everything along those lines. I think I sent this to you, and I know this might be a diversion and everything like that, but just in terms of like being brave, and this actually plays into both of y'all's new shows and everything. I want to just play a little bit of a clip because I think I've told you before that my brother has MS, and he did a very powerful testimony on Facebook and everything like that. So I know I'm kind of diverting away from the conversation, but I just want y'all to see this because I think I'm just real proud of my brother for the way that he handled this, even though it was very emotional and everything along those lines. So this is my younger brother, and along the side, my only brother, and everything like that. And I'm gonna play this clip so that y'all can hear what he's going through and just hear y'all's thoughts around this because you can tell he was being very emotional.
MS survivors, um, or you'll see shirts to say MS doesn't define me, or there'll be a little joke, and like I see a lot of shirts to say, I'm not drunk, I have MS. Little people make light of it, and I have one of those shirts too. But what I'm finding is MS does define me. Um, Let me paint a picture for you that people don't understand. My a couple of pictures of how MS defines me. My my fiance recently celebrated a milestone birthday, and she wanted to go out of state. She wanted to go to Louisiana, and of course, she asked me if I wanted to go, and I wanted to go, but I knew because of MS, my inability to get around, and she would never say this, but I felt like that would take away from her experience.
Hmm.
I couldn't I couldn't do that to her.
Hmm.
Or a simple way of defining MS. You go into a restaurant, or you go to an event, and you walk through the door and you look around and you're looking to see who you know, or who you who you might be able to talk to, or for whatever reason you're scanning the crowd. Well, now I walk into restaurants and I just try to figure out how to navigate through the room where there will be places where I can put my hand without offending patrons. Or is the, you know, are the bathrooms close to where I'll be sitting, because that way I don't have to walk as far.
Mhm. Mhm.
I no longer go into public spaces looking for the public interaction, but how I will be the most safe, how I will be not only safe for myself, but not be an inconvenience
Mhm.
for anybody that's with me.
Mhm.
MS defines me. It's
Mhm.
it's a The books define MS as an inflammatory neurodegenerative disease with no cure.
Mhm.
Depending on the type of MS you have, there's ways of managing it, but there's no cure for it. And there's a million people that are diagnosed with MS in the US right now, several million around the world, but there's a million people that that are fighting this fight,
Mm,
that need to know it's
Mhm.
not just about losing my ability to walk. It's about how does this affect, how do my kids, how are they gonna, you know, two of my stepchildren graduated recently, and because of MS, I watched their graduations from the car,
Mm.
streaming on my phone.
mm,
I could not figure out how to get there, and
Yeah. Yeah.
in all honesty, the part of MS is letting go of your own pride, your own, where you used to view yourself as strong and
mm.
Yeah.
invincible.
Yeah.
I carry a rollator in the back of my car, and uh, even though I know I need it, sometimes I don't want to admit it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'd rather walk with two canes than to have to use a rollator, uh,
Yeah.
or a walker. But that's my new me. I mean, that's my
Mm.
new reality.
The new
Mm.
norm. Yeah. Yeah.
The norm, yeah.
Um. First off, thank you. That was it. To share that, that was awesome, and I commend him, and I will definitely have him in my prayers. I think that a portion of that, I, we have to come to a conclusion that sometimes, people find themselves getting offended by what someone else does or what someone else is. To his point, no, the harder part about MS or prayer or diseases like MS, anti-inflammatory or inflammatory diseases, is a lot of those are invisible diseases until
Yeah.
they're visible, right?
Mhm.
And so a lot of people don't really understand the level of, like he was saying, just the decisions that have to be made, preparing just to come outside in regular society with other people.
Yeah,
Uh,
that blew my
you know,
mind.
yeah, like I resonate with him. I do not have MS, but I have anti-inflammatory diseases where I do have to take those things in consideration. In certain seasons, am I going to be in a lot more pain? What are the seats at the restaurant? Is it going to cause, pain, me sitting there too long? Things like that. So I totally understand. Like he said, sometimes it's just, how long is it going to take me to get there? How long is this walk? Is the handicap space really a handicap space? Like, can I actually, is it enough where I can get to the space, or are the ones up front gone? And so I got to go to the handicaps in the back. So I do understand those mindsets. And I think that people assume other people's levels. I think in our society, when it comes to diseases we don't understand,
Mhm.
or don't health issues that people have that they don't like to talk about. I don't want to be, I have this and my name is, right? But you sometimes have to get into that space because he's right. When you have a diagnosis, it kind of defines you because you have to make adjustments for whatever's going to come with this thing that unless I have a flare up, you won't see, right? So you be having you're basically battling every day an invisible foe,
Mm,
and the world assumes that you're battling it, and it's very hard to get the two separated. So I commend him for speaking up, and at the same time, it is correct how many people um, have things that they always tell you. You always watch, be careful, who you're talking to when you have interactions because you don't know what somebody's battling.
right.
Right, silent battle. When Coach and I are going through something, we have each other we can call. We have our tribes that we talk about that we can call and say, "I'm not safe here." Right, like I got some problems on my head, but
Right.
I'm not okay. But there are people in the world who have nobody to call, and so
And
they
that's
walk
one
around
thing.
very
Yeah.
angry. Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that Malik, that my brother talks about. In the video is a much longer video. I just wanted to hear part of it and everything. But he talks about having those tribes that you said and everything
Yeah.
along those lines. Because one of his tribes, and that's actually who helped him record that video, is his Slingshot Club. And you've heard me tease
Mm-hmm.
him. That's actually the avatar that y'all see sometime in my picture, which is like those
Yeah.
3-wheel cars and everything like that. So that's part of his crew. And ironically, he went to one of his sessions, and it turned out that one of his fellow slingshot persons was actually, and that's talked about later in the video, was going through the same battle and
Right.
actually some of what he was going through and everything like that, and was able to help him, guide him through some of the process of what he had to fight because he had already gone through it, and they've kind of like shared the experiences together because they're both going through
Yeah.
it together and everything. That's
Yeah.
just
I think
when
that,
he also talks about
yeah,
our
but that's what kind
regular
of
family
happens
as
as
well.
well. I think that's another way that God works is he will allow you to be around. You're never in the valley by yourself,
Right.
right? We always talk about how we got to go through the valley and the low points, circling back to what Coach and I were talking about as far as the climb.
Right.
And you forget about the valley points and all those things, but you're never in the valley alone. And I don't just mean with Christ. There's always other people that sometimes are right in your tribe, if you all are honest with one another and talk with one another, that are in the same valley as you. And I believe that God puts us in those valleys at times so that we can go through it together. I use it with my clients. I use it with people that I interact with, walking alongside you, because you'd be amazed at, we might actually be at the same point, right?
Right.
I just haven't got that, safety established with you yet for me to say it, but we may be at the same point. And maybe, like you said with Mark, like Mark was saying, maybe I can learn from where you've learned from,
Right.
as a point to what Coach and I have been talking about. When I talk to clients, when I talk to other people, when I talk to my children, I drank the muddy water so you don't have to.
Right.
Sometimes we need to tell that we drank the muddy water so you don't have to. I'm not just going to sit here and watch you drink muddy water. Girl, there's money over there. Come here. Let me tell you why. You know what I mean? So we have to get to that place as well.
I am moved so much by that and almost without words. I'm looking at myself on the camera and I'm like, boy, your whole countenance changed. And I'm talking to myself.
Yeah.
That was so moving. But man, I don't know, for me, what a fitting point to pivot here into what we were going to end on tonight, because here we are talking about us trying to be diamonds and be seen and shine. And you've got this man, along with thousands of millions of other people who have to live this life, that have to figure out and be strategic in their steps just to go out to eat or just to go watch their stepchild, graduate from high school.
Yeah.
I mean, my heart is just breaking that we
Yeah.
live in such a selfish society. And then in most cases, people would look at him and judge him
Yeah.
for that. To your point earlier, is in not even knowing his struggle or his story,
Right.
and not even caring.
Yeah.
He's not like me, so who cares?
Right.
So,
I think it's crazy because I've seen some pretty hateful people when it comes to the handicap
right.
parking, things like that, or whatever. They can just, I've heard some pretty horrible things. And when I have a really bad flare, it's hard for me. I don't like having to use the handicap space. I will draw I do my best not to. But if if I'm in that bad of a flare and I have to, I remember one time I was parking somewhere and I got out. Well, I don't look handicapped. If there's a look to that, I don't know why people say that. But that's what the woman said to me. She said, "You don't look handicapped. You really shouldn't use that spot." I have a placard, ma'am. So
which you
somebody thought
qualify
I
for.
looked, I qualify.
Yeah,
I'm
medically.
sorry that I don't look sick enough for you, but it was very disheartening that is a real thing. It's a real encounter. I've experienced it. And you don't. It's almost a shame attached to it if you need help. And so I think that that's a horrible way, but that is a society that we're in.
Yes, that
Mark,
was.
your
Go ahead.
brother, Mark, your brother. I didn't catch his name.
Malik.
Malik. So your brother Malik, and even Evie, our queen here. I would have to say you guys are the exception.
Mm,
You guys are the exceptional ones.
mm,
Which makes me pivot into what we were going to talk about tonight.
mhm.
What does it mean to be the exception?
Right, right.
You know, I wasn't obviously going down this path that way, but Mark brought it to us that way, which again, I feel is divine because now watching that video, that sends a completely different spin on what we were going to talk about.
Right, right.
These are the individuals who are the exceptions every day. These are the superheroes that we don't see and we don't talk about. But I really want us to ponder for a second. So many of us want to be great, and as I said earlier, but in reality, we're probably more average than we are great. But
Mhm.
what does it mean to be the exception? We're talking about the climb. So one of the ways to strengthen your climb is to be the exception. But what does that mean to be the exception?
What would you define it as, Coach? What do you feel? I think that being the exception is defined by self view. So I think that to be
Okay.
exceptional, you have to first. I think twofold on it. So you have to be exceptional, and all of those things. You have to first accept self, right?
Mm-hmm.
So have you accepted self, and are you comfortable with self in the space that you're in,
Did he
right?
not just walk that out?
Right, right. Like, are you comfortable with self in the space that you're in? And then not only are you comfortable with where you're headed, right? So sometimes you get so comfortable in the space that you're in that you don't go to the headed part, right? And then you found yourself continuously doubting self or redoubt or redoing it or reiterating. And so how do you become the exception if you don't have a set expectation for self?
Good. I like that.
That kind of has where I'm at with that.
And isn't part of it also the journey and the journey in yourself and everything along those lines? Because the other thing, and I don't think Malik would be ashamed of me saying this, is that he also has had some different journeys, not just with this particular handicap journey, but it took him a long time to figure out his purpose in life, because you have to figure out your purpose in life. So he actually had the probably one of the longest trails that I know of to end college, because I think that he went to college and now he's gotten his master's, and I think he's still working on his PhD. But it took him like probably about 10 to 15 years to figure out what he was going to be when he grew up, if I could use that old expression and everything.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
one time thought he was going to be in the construction management field because mom's other half was in that field. So he did some work in there. I think he did some work in the business field and a couple of other things that he was involved in. But for several years, even doing this diagnosis and everything, he has been involved, actually, ironically, in your field, in the field coach and everything, because he's been a counselor to those.
Yeah.
And you heard me reference Malik before, because he
Yeah.
does a lot of work with gang kids and kids
Mhm.
in that space. So he does a lot of work to make sure that kids are not caught up in that whole gang environment. But that
Right.
came much later in his college career. But he is very good at that and is good at having those conversations and even bonding, much like you do, Coach, with the kids in this area. And I think he's got some clients even out of state, like in Virginia, because y'all know I'm in North Carolina, but he
Yeah.
has clients throughout and everything. But he took a while to figure out what he was going to be. And then, of course, having my now teenage nephews, because like I said, they're 16 and 17. They'll be 16 and 17 this particular year and everything in August and everything. So having them and seeing them grow up has also helped him in that field, in that career, because he's able to relate to the kids he's talking to, because he's got kids of his own that are around that same age.
Yeah.
So he's able to relate to a lot of what they're talking about that other adults might not be able to relate to, because he can go back if they say something that's a little bit, I won't say off kilter or off center, that he doesn't understand. He'll be like, Julius and Lex, what are these kids talking about? And they'll give him like some sort of perspective.
Yeah.
Well, to answer your question from my viewpoint, I know I asked the question and you probably shouldn't answer your own question, but I love what you guys both said. But for me to be the exception is simple and just means you're going to have to learn to embrace being different.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. I mean, and there was no better illustration than Mark's brother. And really, Evie walks that out every day too. Just understanding that you're going to be different and that that's okay. That being the exception literally means you can't fit in.
Right.
You can't fit into the societal norms and be like everybody else.
Yeah.
Then call yourself the exception.
Yeah.
This can't happen. And
Yeah.
as I was pondering on that, did you have something?
No. I'm like, yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Yeah.
So as I was pondering on that, I had to ask myself the question, why is that way? And I came up with there's an internal conflict and there's an external conflict. That's what makes it so difficult to be the exception. So with and both bring discomfort, right? So when you try to fit in, I'm over here and I'm looking at group A and B and I'm like, oh man, I need to be over there. I need to be over there. You have this internal conflict with yourself because it's all fear-based that you're trying to fit over there because you want to be accepted. But the internal conflict is coming because you want nothing to do with those groups. Sometimes it's better for you to stand over here by yourself and maybe you create your own group. So you've got that external conflict going on. At the same time, you've got external conflict going on because now you're exposed. If you do have the courage and the bravery to stand outside by yourself, now you got everybody looking at you. Now you're exposed. You're naked.
Yeah.
Because now everybody sees you and everybody's like, well, why aren't you over here in group A?
Right.
Why aren't you over here in group B or C? You should belong to a group.
Right. I think to that point, that's developed early on in childhood. I believe that starts very young. With family members, cousins, siblings, friends. I think we have a sense of requirement to belong and the expectation for us, with family, friends. If like to Mark's point, he said, well, his brother went into a field because somebody else in the family was in that field, right? We get into that mindset where we just adapt to someone else's life,
right?
Because it seemed to be successful for them. If it worked for them, it worked for me, so I can do it. And sometimes it's just an easy way into accept and just you accept. As Coach was saying, you kind of accept mediocrity because you get to that place where, well, it's okay. And I'm complacent. I make enough money to be all right. And we okay. But again, that's, to me, that is directly operating from lack. If you can't dream it, to Coach's point when he said not being a dreamer, you can be a dreamer, but a dreamer with action behind it. Your dream has to have an action word. And I think that we live our lives a lot in the noun mindset, and we don't live our lives in the adjectives, the verbs, the words and movements, the action words that we should be putting into our lives. I think a lot of people get very complacent, like you said, Gary, with the diamonds. What are you sure that, you want to shine bright like a diamond, for Rihanna, but you don't want to go through the pressure of it. And, people look at people and they idolize people who have a lot of money or idolize people who have prestige or other degrees. But when you say that you want to be like so-and-so or, Rihanna, Beyonce, all these people, you look at what you saw. That video was a snippet, like a small, snippet of what it took. When you want to trade places with somebody, do you want to trade pain with somebody?
Well, not in the trade pain. Oh, I'm glad you said that. But not in the trade pain, but you don't know when the trade pain will happen. And all
right.
The other part of the video that I didn't play, which was at the beginning, because I'll give y'all a snippet of about maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes of what Malik did. Y'all can go on Facebook and find it on my Facebook if you want to see the full 20-minute video. But he talked about the first time that he actually learned about MS with when our aunt, which is my mom's sister, actually had MS and actually passed of MS, and all along those lines. So he's actually another generation that is having it, but her sister had it before, and she had it and lived with it for 35 years. And Malik's in the beginning stages of his and everything like that. So we're hoping he lives as long as she did and everything, if not longer, with the different treatments and everything. But he was the one that actually would give her a hard time, but do it in a fun and playful kind of way of trying to get her to be strong with
make light of it.
And then ironically, he's going through the same things that he was helping her get through. So you never know what you do to help somebody may actually come back, and you might have to deal with the same thing. And people saw what you did and learned from your lessons, because sometimes we give lessons that we don't know that we're given.
And that's why I said that's why I always contribute, and then to bring that back around to contribute about you're never in the valley by yourself. Sometimes you're going through this, like when someone's walking alongside you, it's really to help you have ammo for your next fight. You know what I'm saying? You never know. Maybe me and Coach having our conversation has helped us both kind of look at different avenues that we're actually walking alongside in each life, right? Separately and maybe differently, but now we've got somebody else to pivot some of those ideas off of. Hey, I was wondering, I've been feeling this way and I wanted to do this. What do you think? You know what I'm saying? Because you have someone that's in the valley with you or on the climb with you. Sometimes we get into a space where you're so isolated and you go into a woe is me, it's only happening to me mindset. When the truth of the matter is, it's not only not just happening to you, it may be your whole community is happening to, your whole tribe is happening to, your whole friend group is happening to, and you may be the one who's supposed to shine while the others are feeling dim. You never know your role in it. And to your point, Shani, yes, using your pain as the purpose. My been through is for someone else to get through, right? But if I never say anything, we hold as a society, and we will talk about this on the show, but we hold as a society a shame on pain. Pain, everyone goes through pain. Everyone, if you've lived longer than a day, and even on your first day, there is pain. When you coming into this world, there is pain. So we are prone to pain, and then get angry or minimize someone for having something that every last one of us has, right? No, I may not have your disease, but we have one. No, I may not have, your ailment, but I have one. No, I may not have, your struggle with your wife, but I may not have the best struggle with my husband or my wife or my friend. Maybe you don't have the best relationship with your children. And maybe that could be something that for a father who doesn't know if he wants to be one, but here it is. Like we gatekeep our been through. And then look at someone else and say, when they really should. Well, how would they know? Right. You're gatekeeping the muddy water that you already drank. You're gatekeeping the lesson that could have been learned. You're gatekeeping the been through. And so now they are struggling because, again, as we, go back to the Bible, the older women were supposed to teach the younger women. If you've been quiet, don't talk about how little girl is still walking around in the outfit that you think. Right.
We talked about that last week.
Don't talk about her then, because you ain't told her what's right.
Right. What throws me to my point. I love everything you said, but I think in my own personal journey, I've invested too much time and effort, been through too much pain, too many dark
to
not learn to encourage myself. I need my tribe. I'll be the first one to say that I need my peoples. I need my tribe. But I think I've learned to encourage myself in the Lord, to look in the mirror and to lift myself up. One of the things that I kind of say to myself in that is I've learned that when people around me say that I have changed, I have to pause and remember it's because they're not in a place to say that I've grown.
Right. But isn't that kind of come to what Shannon's point is? That's why I put that up there and everything, because I do think that we get too worried about image and all along those lines. And I think I brought it up on this show when Laura was here, and I'll bring it up again just really quickly. Too often we are afraid to listen, even though people might be giving us advice and solid advice, and all along those lines. Because I know even in my own relationship journey, I've had some people that have told me that that wasn't the one that I needed to be with and everything along those lines, but you're too busy concerned about how it might be the image and everything that you want and everything along those lines. So yeah, we do get too caught up in the imagery out of what's going on and everything. So we must go into being our own advocates. So set a
Yes.
standard for others on how to treat you, and we definitely got to be
Come
our
on,
own
Evie. Come on,
advocates.
Right.
But
I
to
think,
Mark, to your point, that's
yeah.
that comment I used in everything, but really in reality was based out of a relationship that I was in. And in that relationship, I started it as a completely broken man. But over the
Mm-hmm.
course of time, uh, I worked on myself. I fasted and prayed with the Lord. I did my own inner work. I plugged into things that Evie was doing and things that Izzy, the intentional healer, was teaching. AYPN things were being taught. All these different things to work on myself to become a better version of me. And I grew. I
Mm-hmm.
elevated. I evolved, but was in a relationship where my partner didn't and really didn't care to, was happy with where she was. And to each his own. If that's your thing, but that's where that phrase evolved. I just had to realize that she was no longer in a place that she could see me. She was stuck on that version of Gary when I had evolved maybe 1, 2, 3 levels higher. And
You were
I
a different
myself
version and
had to
everything
agree
like
with
that. Yeah, but that reminds me. There's another show on the network we aired. Actually, she tapes before y'all sometimes, but the show actually airs on the network on Thursday, and she's actually in a different state than both of us. She's actually in Indiana, but Lisa Hughes has a show called Relationship Soup, which is all about relationships and all along those lines. But that's one of the things that she's been bringing up lately is how a lot of times we don't do our um, inner healing and our inner work before we even step into a new relationship. So you got to do that inner work before you're even ready to go into a new relationship. Whereas too often we are wanting to jump into a new relationship, and then we sometimes jump into a similar relationship. So we go from the pan into the frying pan, and oftentimes the pan looks just like the frying pan because it's the same
that.
type of person that you're
Woo,
jumping into and everything. But I don't know if you got any thoughts on that, Evie, because that's something that has
woo.
definitely been a focus of relationship soup. How a lot of times we, and she's a very religious woman as well, are into this notion of not doing self-reflection before we move into the next relationship.
I believe that she's absolutely correct. I think to Izzy's point about teaching people how to treat you, you have to also, as you evolve, you learn how to treat you
Yeah,
first.
yes.
And if you don't learn how to treat you, I'm an advocate of dating yourself. I'm an advocate of going out with yourself. I'm an advocate of hanging out with you to
Right,
see if you're hanging outable, right?
right,
Right.
Are you the kind of person that is able to socialize or be with other people? Have you healed from the last person, or are you
right,
interviewing the new person on the last person's resume, right?
Are
right.
you
So
still
you
lying
have
to
to,
yourself?
yeah, are you lying to
That we
yourself? Do
talked
you
about last
believe
week?
Right. Do you believe either higher or less than of yourself? Some people, and you think it's an amazing thing when you see people who are very high thinking of themselves and all of these things, and you're like, oh my God, look at their confidence. But when you get to talking to them one on one, you actually see a very broken person, but they're afraid to show you that part, and you had to earn that part. But you kind of get deflated when you're like, dang, I thought you were, or you see someone who is so minimizing themselves that they don't even see that how powerful they are, how big they can be, because they are so used to shrinking. And so that's something we can definitely get into on Kingdom Kings and Queens. But I think that we've gotten into a place where shrinking is easier, right? It's more
Right.
complacent. I
Yeah.
can do this. This is
Easy
what they
pass.
want from me. Yeah, this is all they want. It's okay. Oh, it's not hard. I can do this. And so when you are willing to expand, as Coach was talking about, or evolve, or, like you said, even showing up as exceptional, or the exception to the rule, you have to then also know that there's a role of isolation during that time as well.
Girl, I was just about to hit that.
Yeah, like a role of isolation where you have to, um, before you can love somebody else, can you face you and
Mhm.
love you?
Mhm.
Right. So I think that's one part that people always think about. Well, if you love yourself, you can love somebody else. But you can love yourself. Like you can love yourself not want harm for yourself, not want missed things for yourself, but you can also dim yourself
Mhm.
and diminish yourself to yourself, right? You
Yep.
can love yourself and hate yourself at the same time, and then expect someone to love the bipolar version of you.
Right.
But
Because
isn't
they're seeing the mirror image of you. I mean, by definition, if you want to be an exception, for me, that literally means that there's going to be times you're going to be alone, or you need to be alone.
Correct.
If anything, it validates that you're on the right path.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Coach and Evie, don't isn't part of admitting what's going on in your life and doing this self-reflection also admitting your faults? Like I've said on this show a
Yes.
couple of times, I know that have some of the uh, Oscar and not the Felix aspect of my personality, so I have to admit that in my life and everything because that is a fault of mine. I mean, I can do things to try to correct it, but anybody that deals with me is probably going to see some cluttered papers, and they might see some other things that might be a little bit on the more Oscar-y side than the Felix side. So you can adjust and you can make changes, but you also have to admit those parts of you that are just part of your personality.
Yeah.
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 Man,
I
I've
think
learned
that,
that. Go
yeah.
ahead.
No, go ahead, Coach.
I'm saying I've learned that if everyone is cheering for me, it means that I'm just like everybody else.
Right.
I mean, that kind of sounds crazy, but I've learned that to be fact. If everyone is really cheering for me, it means I'm just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's not the place that I want to be. I want to be different.
Right.
I want to
I
be.
think when you want to stand out, yeah, you want to be different, you want to stand out. And to be the exception is also to believe in self that there's more than what meets the eye, right? You believe there's more in you. You believe in yourself more. And so when you get to that place and you evolve to that place where I believe I could do bigger than this. I can leave a bit more than this. I am more than this. I own me enough to believe in self enough. And I think that is a self conversation. I do that when I do the mirror work, releasing things that are no longer serving you
Mhm.
so that you can become who you, like you said, become who you are. But you can't do that if you're already packed, you know?
Right.
Mhm.
That's good.
Mhm.
I think Bishop Jake said it the best that I've heard, that misery always has company or loves company.
Absolutely.
He talked
Absolutely.
about how success breeds contempt.
Absolutely.
You're minding your own business, trying to do your own thing to be successful.
Hmm.
And just because you're different, it breeds contempt.
Right.
He went further to say, if you don't want to make waves, and this is most of society, then just be mediocre.
Right.
Be normal and fit in. Dress like them, talk like them, act like them, go where they go, eat the foods that they eat, think like them, just be them. It takes courage to
Yeah.
be different to go where you've never gone before.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And a,
that takes
and a yeah, and a Bible full of disciples. I don't mind being Peter. I'm all right.
Come on.
That's a good way to put it. To be Peter, there's a whole bunch of disciples, but you do have a lot of people that are very content with going to work, just maintaining and just kind of like going in a notion of going through the motions and
Yeah.
everything. So they're not really trying to get to a form of greatness, whatever that greatness is. They are content with just being the run of the mill people. Because you got some people that are very much content with that lifestyle. And I'm not saying that everybody's got to be a king, because if we had a nation of kings, that wouldn't work either. So you have to have people that are willing to actually be the rulers, and some that are willing to be the ruled and everything like that. So you got to have all the elements of a society. But I do think that some people are selling themselves short. I don't know whether
No,
y'all agree with me. There's
absolutely.
a lot of folks that are selling themselves short.
Yeah, absolutely.
You sparking me on there, Mark. And this is probably my closing thought. I just looked at our clock, but to your point, it's not about being better than anyone else.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of me realizing that I don't have to settle.
Mhm.
I don't have to put myself on clearance to be accepted by the rest of the world. If people can't accept my growth and I have to shrink myself back or dim my light to connect to them, I don't need that in my life. Those people need to grow up, and really, it's not even about them growing up. It's about me being in a place where I just got to, Bishop Jakes again said, stay with the asses. I've
Mhm.
elevated to a higher clef, and I'm just going to have to leave you here.
Well,
If
AG, one of the original Unbreakable Souls, had a quote that he was giving you as well. So I don't know if you saw
I'm
that.
coming. That's my boy. But I wonder if they can't connect to where I'm going, that's already telling me that's a dead end situation, and
Right.
that situation is dead. That the
Right.
situation, the relationship, the business, whatever ship you talked about ships last week, whatever
Yeah,
ship it
yeah,
is, it's dead, and I need to let it go.
yeah,
Now,
right,
AG, this is my boy. This is my brother from another mother. Systems typically create clones and drones. The exception.
right.
Oh, this is good.
The
Mm,
exceptional
that
always
dude is
define
always
traditional
dropping
frameworks.
And
They are
they're
first
first
feared
feared
before
before
they
they
are
were feared.
revered.
And
Mm,
that's true. I think when you're a change maker, and that'll be my closing thought. When you're a change maker, when you are someone who is called, right?
mhm.
As we talk about someone who's called, it wasn't a conference call, it wasn't a three-way call, right? Like everybody wasn't invited to that call. So sometimes I'm okay with looking crazy. I'm okay with looking like Job, Noah, because you decided to do something that no one's ever done. And I think to be exceptional is to decide that I will challenge self. I will challenge the woman in the mirror or the man in the mirror for self to see how far I can go. The only person I'm in competition with is the person I was yesterday.
Right.
And when you get into that headspace and into that mindset, and you're no longer comparing yourself to other people, as long as I'm better than Evie yesterday, I'm winning, right? When I
Yeah.
start trying to be better than other people that are not me, then I am holding myself to a standard that's not mine,
Come on. Come on. That's
right?
good.
So my closing thought would be is when you can look at you in the mirror and say, you, hey girl, hey, you're the stuff, you're amazing, you're wonderful. And if you can't believe it from yourself, then don't get yourself in another situationship that cost you yourself.
Mm.
That was powerful and everything.
Yeah.
So
So,
I think that on that note, I might have to, because I figured out which PSA I wanted to end with, and all along those lines. So I don't know if y'all got some closing parting
That's
words, but
good.
this is actually because I'll just put it this way, and I know we got and this is the last Misfits managed, but we're going to go into the new shows that'll be coming up y'all's way on next week on Tuesday and on next not this coming
Yeah.
Saturday, but next Saturday, and
Mhm.
everything along those lines. I've actually just created the links for both of those shows and everything, so I'll send those to you in the near future and everything along those lines. But there is, ironically, out of Virginia, the state above me and everything, a group of women that have went through abuse, and I played this commercial on other shows as well. So I think that this is a fitting ending, along with probably the Heart show, the American Heart Society, one that I played on the show before. But this is a group called the Natasha House, and it's actually a very
hold on, Mark.
poetic message and everything. Before y'all, and then I'll play that after y'all give your closing remarks.
Misfits Managed Nation, I have to say thank you.
Mm.
I love y'all. I honor y'all. This has been a tremendous ride and journey and experience with you. I have to give Lauren love.
Yes,
Obviously,
yes.
he's not here, but man, we just took something that was burning in our souls and got together and put together this. And we've just marveled at how many people this has helped and changed lives and ministered to them. So I've got to say thank you to Lauren. Thank you to Mark. Thank you to Misfits Vanish Nation. Thank you to all the guests that have come on. Evie's been on several times. Izzy and Dave have been on. Shannon is here every week. We've got new people popping in and out. AG has popped in, just dropping witticisms. I mean, the dude is just a walking wisdom, an encyclopedia. But I'm gonna shut up because I'm gonna get all misty. But it's bittersweet, as I said. I'm so excited about what's coming. So next week, next Tuesday, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time on this channel, join us for Unbreakable Souls. And then in that same week, April 5th, Saturday at 3 o'clock Central Time, join Miss Evie and I for Kingdom Kings and Queens.
Right.
Be blessed. This is your boy, Coach G.
Just
Yeah.
before you get on out of here and everything, there was Shannon. Shannon was the one that did it from the hospital, or was it the other lady
Yeah,
that did it from the
Shannon.
hospital? Shannon did it from the hospital, but what was the other lady that was also, because you didn't mention her name and everything, but she came on a couple of times.
Micah was
Micah.
rock star. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Did not want to leave out Micah because she was definitely one that
can't
was
leave out
a
Micah.
regular and everything along those lines. So then I was trying to remember her name so that we can give her the dues that she needs as well.
I did the name drop because you forget people. So
You always do. That's why I was trying to remember which ones we might have missed and everything, but I tried to catch at least one of them and everything. So we did catch Micah and all along those lines. But I'll let y'all check out Natasha House as we get ready to get on out of here. But looking forward to the newer shows that'll be coming our way next week and all along those lines. So it should be fun, but I think y'all will enjoy this video, which is a short one from the Natasha House ladies, and we might have one other one as well. But check out what the Natasha House ladies are all about.
It is a gem tucked away near a forest, a place where the lost are found. It is a gift of wholeness for those who are ready to receive it. A secret place where peace can be found in stillness, where you can finally stop fighting to survive and just breathe. Just breathe. Where accountability corrects and the word help is not a cuss word. It is the place that was thought of before you ever thought you needed it. It is where forgiveness starts and healing begins. Well, we are taught that when we put our hands to work, we can create something. As we uprooted the weeds in the garden, it was a reflection of our lives. As we uprooted disappointment, as we uprooted pain, as we uprooted being traumatized. Because God doesn't deal with the surface. He gets to the root of it. We laughed. We shared tears. We shared our stories. We shared our fears, our dreams, our visions, our heart. We were more than just mothers. We were broken women trying to figure out how to become whole again. It became a place where homelessness became hopeless until we reached the bridge of wholeness.
There are moments in life we wish we could freeze in time. We live them. We live for them. They are intimately personal. They are gladly shared. What is life if we cannot experience these moments of joy, wonder, and happiness? We want people to experience more of life's precious moments. To do that, we must be healthy in heart and mind. For the heart is where life's moments are felt most, and the mind is where these moments become memories and are relived again and again. It's why we've made better heart and brain health our mission, and together we've made an extraordinary impact. Healthier adults, more active children, stronger survivors. But we are just beginning. Until there's a world free of heart disease and stroke, we'll be there, making a healthier, longer life possible for everyone. You may ask, why do we do what we do? The answer is simple. Because we are the American Heart Association and the American Stroke Association. And life is why.